Well, a rivalry game is no time to get lost in the sauce, and the Huskies hustled for their piece of the pie. Plus, a major milestone for Sarah Strong. We'll recap the reigning national champions' win over Notre Dame. That coming up.
And people are already paying attention to the top recruit who could be the next big thing in stores. We'll hear from Olivia Vukosa. But first, UConn women's hockey has been on fire all season, but it's safe to say the team outdid itself in a recent matchup. Connecticut Game Week
starts now.
Being Italian and being from Philly, and no, sorry, doesn't live up to the standards of UConn or the state of Connecticut.
Well, the Huskies' head pizza pundit was not impressed after UConn's win over Villanova. Of course, that was then, this is now. A New Haven classic saves the day after the win over Notre Dame. Welcome into Connecticut Game Week. I'm Sean Humphrey.
And I'm Alexa Harley. Now, in case you missed it, that was Gino Auriemma's opening remarks after a nearly 50-point win over Villanova last week. Now, he entered with a little pizza remark, calling it red stuff on cardboard.
Ouch, that's a little bit harsh. We've heard a lot about it over the past few days. A few boxes of Frank Pepe's after the team played Notre Dame could be called red sauce redemption. And the final score of the game against the Irish is pronounced a beatsdown. 85-47 UConn. You'll have to forgive me for saying that. I had to, you know.
I know. We've had all the pizza puns we've been working with all week.
Well, hot take, this three-pointer you're seeing now was bigger news than the pizza punditry. Sarah Strong reached a major milestone with those points as she hit the 1,000 mark. She's the third fastest Husky to get 1,000 points behind Maya Moore and Paige Beckers. Now, in typical Sarah Strong fashion, she didn't care too much for the fanfare around her accomplishment, but head coach Gino Auriemma says he's not surprised the sophomore has done it this quickly.
What does it mean to you to be, a part of that company?
I mean, it's cool. It means a lot to me, I guess. But I mean, just pretty much saying thank you to my teammates. I feel like I wouldn't have done it without them.
I'm not surprised that she's gotten to 1,000 this quickly because it's consistent every night. She doesn't go 2 or 3 games where it comes up empty with 3 or 4 points, 5 points, 6 points. So her consistency is what stands out. Kind of like Paige and Maya, same thing. And her efficiency.
The reality of the rivalry between these two teams wasn't lost on these Huskies. They'd lost to the Irish in each of the past 3 seasons before this week's revenge game in stores. That includes last season, an 11-point loss in South Bend. AZ Fudd missed the past 2 matchups after only playing part of the first half in 2022. And after she played 37 minutes this go-round, it's safe to say she was happy to contribute. Meanwhile, it's also sophomore guard Kaylee Heckle's first time playing Notre Dame as a Husky. She says the atmosphere at Gamble lived up to expectations.
It was really cool. I feel like rivalries have always been fun, especially last year with UCLA and USC rivalries. So it just kind of felt a little similar to that. And it's obviously a big difference playing against Notre Dame being at UConn. So
it's having to sit on the bench every year. It sucks no matter what game you're watching. But having to watch this, this is a fun game, a big matchup. So having to watch every year, I was excited to finally be a part of it and get to play out there and be with my teammates.
UConn extended its lead in the all-time series between the two teams. The 38-point margin of victory is the largest in series history.
Well, we all know that right now the UConn women's hoops team stands alone as the #1 squad in the country. But the Huskies are one of 2 teams to have a spotless record. The other, Vanderbilt. But one thing that both of these teams have in common is that they're coached by winners, Gino Auriemma and UConn alum Shea Ralph. Now, Ralph was a part of the 2000 title run for UConn, and after playing for Auriemma, she joined him courtside and served as an assistant coach, adding 6 more natties to her belt in that time. Now the Husky standout is in her 5th season coaching the Commodores, and her team is 5th in the nation and the only other squad to have 0 losses. Safe to say Ralph's former coach and mentor is not surprised at her success.
It's not easy to do what she's done, and she's so detail-oriented. She's so competitive in so many ways. She's a great teacher. So many guards that have come through here that were impacted by Shea.
And speaking of Shea and her Vanderbilt team, it was announced Wednesday that the two schools, UConn and Vanderbilt, will play each other in a two-game series in 2027 and 2028.
Well, we're just getting warmed up on Connecticut Game Week, but when we come back, we're putting this week's Best in Show on ice. Both UConn hockey teams earned some recognition as they light up the scoreboard.
And UConn's perfect pilgrimage through the Big East continues this weekend when the Huskies host the Wildcats out of Villanova. When we come back, we'll get a look at the upcoming Big East matchup and take a closer look at how the Kevin Willard era of Villanova basketball is shaken out so far.
And Olivia Vukosa is the nation's top-ranked center and, more importantly, a future Husky. We caught up with her to learn more as she finishes her final season of high school ball. More Connecticut Game Week coming up. Time for this week's Best in Show, presented by New Balance of Avon and South Windsor. And we start with an 8-goal explosion from the women's hockey team against Merrimack. It's the most goals the Huskies have scored under head coach Chris McKenzie. 7 different players scored in the 8-1 victory. Now, UConn stumbled in its rematch against the Warriors despite a 37-17 shots on goal advantage. But hey, you can't hate it.
Well, could the third time be the charm? Tia Chan has been named to the National Women's Goalie of the Year award watch list for the third straight season. Chan posts a 1.55 goals against average with 3 shutouts under her belt this season as well.
And the man named Moose is also in select company. Men's hockey goalie Tyler Muslik is one of 29 finalists for the Mike Richter Award, which honors the top men's Division I goalie. The Husky senior has a 2.17 goals against average with 1 shutout, a .930 save percentage, and a 12-5-1 record between the pipes.
And we're still on hockey because the men's hockey team, number 8, they continue to be great. Joey Muldowney racked up 2 goals and an assist during UConn's split against the University of Vermont. The junior forward now leads the Huskies with 11 goals this season, including 2 game winners. And he will look to keep it going this weekend in the CT Ice Tournament. We're going to switch over to basketball now. The UConn men get back into action on the hardwood Saturday with another Big East foe on the docket. This time, it's Villanova. The Wildcats have built up quite the reputation in the 2010s during the Jay Wright era, but since his departure, they've been trying to get back to that basketball supremacy. Now, this Nova team is now in its first year with new head coach Kevin Willard. And so far, so good. They're 14-4 overall and 5-2 in the Big East. The Huskies have won the last 2 matchups against the Cats and will look to make it 3 in a row Saturday in Hartford. Taking a deeper dive into this team, we welcome in Jeff Nyberg with the Philadelphia Inquirer. All right, new team, new head coach. What have you seen so far from this Wildcats team?
Yeah, I mean, they're a mix of young and inexperienced. And, you know, they've got some players who, you know, the kind of the microcosm of their season was Saturday against St. John's. They had some inexperienced players like a Caden Lewis, who's been an outstanding point guard, Matthew Hodge, who's been a productive wing, and Bryce Lindsay, who's been a productive guard. But have never faced the competition they faced like they did Saturday against St. John's. And it kind of showed. A bigger, experienced, more physical St. John's team took them out of the game, eliminated the things that Villanova does well, and you know, it resulted in a loss.
You kind of touched on it, but there's a mix of younger guys, transfers, veterans on this team. Not really a nuanced thing for Villanova in this new college hoops climate, but still a bunch of new faces and pieces having to blend together. As the season has progressed, how has this team gotten into sync and found their own identity?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they struck gold with a Caden Lewis. He's not a portal guy, but he's a freshman who was originally committed to Kentucky, decided to decommit and then decommit from Kentucky and then commit to Villanova. Kevin Willard had recruited him when Willard was at Maryland. Lewis is a Washington, D.C. kid, and he's kind of been the spark that makes the offense go. He's 20 years old, so he's not a super young freshman. So he's kind of had the ability to get them into their offense. He's a great passer, really good at using both hands. gets the ball into Bryce Lindsey's hands, who's a great shooter. Matthew Hodge, a great shooter. Their pick and roll game is kind of improving as the season has gone on. But yeah, definitely guard dependent. They go as a Caden Lewis and Bryce Lindsey go. Perkins his ability to be physical and drive and finish through contact and ask use, just kind of like savviness. Those are critical. I mean, the Villanova's going to need those guys, especially in a game like Saturday against UConn, against a really good team and in a really good environment. Those players with their experience are going to be critical.
We've talked players, but now I think we talk leadership. Coach Willard, this is his first year with Villanova, but this isn't a basketball program that's in shambles by any means. They're third in the Big East, and I have to imagine as a collective, this school team and its fans expect the Wildcats to be in the conference title game and playing basketball deep into March. So how has Coach Willard approached year one, and what do UConn fans need to know about the way that he coaches?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like a hard-nosed coach, Northeast guy, Big East guy. He's not afraid to get after his players. For the most part, it seems like they respond to that. The identity they're building is, I would say, sort of a kind of a balanced team. They kind of do good things on offense, do good things on defense, and they kind of have a versatile way to attack. They're not so reliant on certain players to score. They're kind of all matchup dependent. So I would say they're a pretty balanced team.
Well, Jeff Nyberg with the Philadelphia Inquirer, thanks so much for joining and talking a little Big East basketball with us. We appreciate it. And you can catch that game between Villanova and UConn right here on Fox. Tip-off is set for Saturday at 12:30 p.m.
I feel like my life hasn't really changed besides, like you guys said, like the people coming up to me and asking me questions and taking pictures. But, I mean, at school, Coach Mackey knows I'm just a regular kid, and I just try to act as normal as possible.
Down to earth off the floor, but expectations are sky high for Olivia Vukosa, who averages a double-double at the high school level. When we come back, we'll visit with the top recruit in UConn's 2026 class. More Connecticut Game Week coming up.
And at stake this weekend, bragging rights for the state of Connecticut. 4 local teams ready to battle for 1 trophy. What you need to know about the Connecticut Ice Tournament just ahead.
Olivia Vukosa's game speaks for itself. She was New York's Gatorade Player of the Year last season with 19.2 points, 17.9 rebounds, and 5.5 blocks per game. So understandably, there was some excitement when she decided to call Storrs her home for the next 4 years and commit to UConn. And as she finishes her final season of high school ball, she's still getting used to the attention. But if you ask her, you haven't seen her best basketball yet.
And number 25, Olivia Vukosa.
As UConn Nation starts to learn Olivia Vukosa's name, you might be surprised who's already taken notice. I mean, imagine you take your first dribble through a layup line and Rebecca Lobo shows up.
I was actually shocked that she was here. She was actually sitting right next to my dad in the beginning of the game.
Lobo wasn't the only one who wanted to see UConn's top commit in action. Head coach Gino Auriemma, associate head coach Chris Daly, and other members of the coaching staff made the trip from Storrs to Springfield. And with all eyes on her, the future Husky says she's still pinching herself.
It was surreal that it's like I'm finally here, and I've worked so hard for it, and now I'm surrounded by this new family in the next year, and I'm just really looking forward to it, and I can't wait to be with them.
You could say the coaches and program greats were returning a favor because Vukosa has made the trek to Storrs in her free time. She's also kept a close eye on the Huskies all season.
I watch what Sarah Williams does every game, actually, and if I can't watch it, I'm asking my dad what the score is, or even in practice, I ask Coach Joe what the score is, too. So I'm always aware, and I'm always trying to see where Coach is going to put me in next year.
And this year, she's focused on getting better at the little things, like becoming a better ball handler. But she and Christ the King's longtime coach Bob Mackey say she's also grown as a leader in her 4 years as a Royal. Vukosa says it's helped her to focus on some of the faces of UConn's current roster as the Huskies push toward a second consecutive national title.
I'd say watching college basketball, watching all the older girls on those teams really direct their team and bring them in and calm them down when they really need it most. And I like Izzy Fudd and Sarah Strong from Connecticut. I think that's who I really try to be right now.
As a freshman, she was very skilled, but her maturity has just been incredible, and both off the court and on the court. She was a goofy freshman, but 14 years old playing with the Croatian national team, heck of an experience, and she's learned a lot. And She's grown in leaps and bounds.
Vukosa's jump to college will solidify what could quickly become one of women's hoops' most frightening front courts. And it's safe to say she's already thought about playing next to Sarah Strong.
I think it'll open up her. I know she has to post sometimes, and sometimes she has to bring it out and lead the floor. And I think by me getting there, she'll be able to work outside a little more, which I think from what I've seen, she could do amazing. So I'm just excited for that pick and roll with her.
Vukosa is also the latest addition to the Christ the King to UConn pipeline. She follows both Sue Bird and Tina Charles, who both made the jump from the Middle Village Queens School to Connecticut. Bob Mackey, who recently became the assistant coach after decades as head coach, taught all three. When we return here on Connecticut Game Week, we'll set the scene for the biggest games on the horizon, from a series dominated by the Huskies to bragging rights in Connecticut. What's in stores just ahead?
Well, calling all UConn sports lovers, if you have a knack for artifacts and pieces of history, you've got to check this place out. It's right in the heart of stores. We'll take you around the Husky Heritage Sports Museum when Connecticut Game Week returns.
Where else in the world can you find a life-size replica of Jonathan the Husky? Well, that would only be in stores at the J. Robert Donnelly Husky Sports Museum. And Connecticut Game Week's Alexa Harley ventured out to UConn to see what types of athletic artifacts they have inside. Check it out.
Championship trophies, the steps of greatness, historic Husky milestones. All of that and more can be found on Alumni Drive in Stores, Connecticut. Whether you want to travel back in time and see some of the mementos of sports past, or soak up the present accolades, the J. Robert Donnelly Husky Heritage Sports Museum has it all. Now, of course, no trip to the museum is complete without checking out some of the latest additions when it comes to hardware. Of course, I'm talking about the 2025 Women's Basketball National Championship title that belongs to UConn. And this trophy, it's in good company because right across from it is the 2024 NCAA Men's Basketball National Championship trophy that belongs to UConn, a part of that back-to-back run for Dan Hurley and his pack of Huskies. And I know what you're thinking, Alexa, there's more than just those two trophies that belong to UConn, and you're right. There's definitely more than two. Take a few steps forward and you'll enter the Connecticut Basketball Rotunda with a panoramic parade of hoops trophies. And inside the Connecticut Basketball Rotunda, you can find numerous Final Four and national championship chairs where famous Huskies once sat, and check some of the highlights of some of the national championships the Huskies have brought back to stores. And behind the glass, you'll also find uniforms from the 1900s, the first ever puck to be dropped on the ice for UConn, an homage to past bowl victories, and trading cards galore. No matter the sport, no matter the century, there are plenty of athletic artifacts to see inside the Husky Heritage Sports Museum. Look at that magic of TV. I'm back. I was there, now I'm here, and we did a little time travel action there for everybody.
A little bit of prestige there. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie, but I didn't snap my fingers. She just appeared.
And
since Alexa has traveled back, why don't we turn our attention forward, step into the future, and see what's in stores? Connecticut bragging rights are on the line this weekend in New Haven. The 6th annual CT Ice tournament returns, featuring UConn, Yale, Quinnipiac, and Sacred Heart. The single elimination tournament runs Friday and Saturday at Ingalls Rink. The Huskies are defending champs, with goaltender Tyler Muslick earning MVP honors last January. Coach Mike Cavanaugh spoke about what the team learned from last year's trophy.
I just think, it was nice to finally break through. We had been in that championship game previous years, and we had not won it. So to finally break through, I think that was great for that team. But again, it has no bearing on this year's team. This is a completely different team, and this is a team that's going to have to blaze its own path.
And staying on the ice, the women's hockey team is back in action this weekend against Northeastern. The Huskies play host on Saturday at 3 o'clock. Northeastern owns the overall record, 49-21-13. UConn has dropped the last 4 straight meetings to the other pair of Huskies that live across state lines. This weekend's home-and-home series will be the first meetings between the two schools this season. The Huskies know every game this time of year is important.
It's the last 10 games of the season, so everyone's playing for something. It could be a trophy, it could be standings, it could be anything. So every little detail matters, and your level of focus and concentration has to be there.
As we told you earlier, the second-ranked men's basketball team will have a big test on Saturday against Villanova. The Huskies are on a 14-game win streak, unbeaten in conference play as well. UConn went 2-1 last season against the Wildcats. Saturday's tip-off is at 12:30 at People's Bank Arena, and you can catch that game right here on Fox. Now, obviously, this weekend and all winter long, it's been cold, it's been snowy. Hold your horses while we talk about the snow. So Sean and I both went to college down in Florida. So snow's not our first love. I'd say we probably don't like it that much, but what's your favorite snow activity?
My favorite snow activity, I did bring out the whiteboard for this, and I got snow football. I did spend a few years in Louisiana, northwestern Louisiana. We got snow a couple times, and one thing I did, I made a snow angel at what was midfield in my backyard, and I played football by myself. I won about 79-0, but the cameras weren't on. And then my second favorite thing to do is just to watch it fall, because I'd rather be indoors, not freezing my butt off.
I've gotten to do a couple of fun snow activities. My favorite was our senior trip in high school was up to New York. We went skiing, did all that kind of stuff. I can't ski. I can't pizza. Almost crashed into a tree. But the best activity is tubing.
That's
Absolutely.
Nice and whimsical.
I got a little bored during the commercial break and put a little snowflake on there. But tubing is probably the most fun thing I think you can do in the snow. Just because.
What is tubing?
You sit in a tube and you sled down a hill pretty much. Sledding, tubing, kind of, I would say one and the same. Don't take the Floridian for that. But similar thing, you sit in an inner tube, go down a hill. Usually you go somewhere pretty big to do it, not just something you do in your backyard.
Okay, I guess that's the more you know thing, because I had no idea.
Don't look at me for the more you know about snow, because that's not, you shouldn't be looking over here.
We used to like to throw snowballs at each other in third grade, like the one time it snowed in Louisiana, but we had about 6 inches overnight once, and it was like the best thing ever.
I feel like one time in college down in Florida, we had flurries one time when it was 30 in the morning, but.
I must not have been there.
Yeah.
Went to the same school, by the way, so.
The more you know.
The more you find out, and you'll find out more about UConn sports next week.